What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy, and this is the No Holds Podcast. And man, it's going to be a good one right here. Very, very, very good ones. We also got some special guests. We have Pastor Roe Miller here, and we have my boy Andre Campbell.
Yes, sir.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
What's up, man? Dude, I'm excited.
No, I'm excited for you to have me on here, man. I've been watching all your podcasts, and I'm like, Dre Day needs to be on there one day, you know. And you know, when you ask me for, you know, can I speak? You know, I'm all down, you know, like, because I sat there and me and Jamie sat there and watched, you know, majority of all of it in the bed, you know, and man, it's some good stuff. I really enjoyed the one with you and Andrea opening up. That was one of the biggest ones that, you know, impacted me, you know, like, because just the realness that's, you know, talked about on this podcast. That's what it's all about. It's just being real and being you, you know. So,
yes, sir.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you being obedient. So let's say that.
Yeah. No, I think, man, this is I think it's going to be good. The subject and just everything. It's the knowledge that you guys are going to bring, you know. I think it's going to impact some people for sure. We'll just go ahead and start off with some simple questions. Favorite food?
Man, mine got to be them lemon pepper wings, baby. Like, shoot, just even raised in Birmingham, man, the biggest thing was to do Friday nights is go to a wing joint. You know, that's me. Hot wings, any kind of wings. That's me all day. Yeah. I'm a wing guy.
Heck yeah. Dude, me too. I love wings. I've even had your wings.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Very.
I'm trying to get there.
What about you, Ro?
Man, I gotta go with the go-to steak.
Oh,
steak is a good medium or medium rare steak. It's my go-to. I guess that's kind of my default. I can almost order a steak from almost anywhere except for like IHOP. You know what I mean? You don't order steaks from there. But like almost anywhere, go-to is a steak. Filet, preferably.
Man, you must have that good living, huh?
No, that's why I go to it.
That's why I go my steaks growing up was a good old Salisbury steak.
No, man, Slim Jims and ramen.
Oh man, you're making me hungry. I haven't eaten yet. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, man.
No, dude, I love steak too. I don't know if I would buy it right now because of the prices, but. Or you go to the store and you see the steak, they're like super high right now.
Sure, you look at ground beef, man, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
It is definitely high.
Favorite color?
Man, I got to say red. I'm blood out, baby. Hey. I'm blood out. I guess it's in between red. I have to say crimson because, you know, it's Alabama, but I'm red all day long.
And that's all we have. That's all we have for
That's it. I'm blood out, man. I love red. I love everything about red. I love red on people. You know, it's just, I don't know. I love red, man.
Yeah, no, I like red. I do like the color red. Ro?
Dang, that's hard. It would be the toss up between white and black. Like seriously, I think white. Because it's, I don't know, it goes with everything. White is just like, it's clean. A room that's white countertops, white cabinets, feels like it's real big, open spaces. It makes me happy. I don't know, just happy.
Or because you just like white women. That's why.
No.
Hey, Andre, you the same, bro.
Hey, man, I can't say nothing because, man, when I first met Ro, in the beginning, coming from Detroit, raised in Alabama, man, I went to tons of, you know, white parties, you know, and in the back of my head, I said, man, I would never be with no white girl because I just saw how they turned up at the party. I said, no, bump a white girl. I don't want no part to do with.
Was it the way they dance or what?
Shoot, no rhythm. Yeah, that's probably what it is. No, but man, I don't know. It was just, I was just hooked on my sisters and hooked on color. You know, like I love like a Spanish girl. I love like anything that had color. I was really big on it. Coming from Detroit, that's all that you're around is like predominant blacks. And so like just coming down to Alabama, that was the main thing that was in my head was like being with the black woman, being with the black woman. And man, when I went off to Rhema, boy, I was still, my sister's hardcore, staying with Road 2. And man, all the girls that I invited over to the house was black or a girl with color. And man, and once I just said, okay, I'm done talking to women. I'm done talking to them because, man, I was, we being blunt on this show, right? Oh, yeah. I was a man hoe, and I was just being honest. Like it was a time that, man, I had girls over the house like all the time. And, God, that, I guess that was one of my dark times, like when I graduated from Raymond, I was still trying to figure out myself. And, it was just one day, I said, okay, I'm going to
Camp Sunshine?
No, not Camp Sunshine. I forgot what it was. It was where I met Jamie at. It was at a Daniel and Air Groves concert. It was a worship night. I was at Raymond. And I seen Jamie. I met her at Camp Sunshine, and I seen her there worshiping. And, like, man, Holy Spirit just hit me right away. It was like, you need to go holler at her. And, in the back of my head, rejection came, in the back of my head, because the whole status of, growing up in a black man being with a white woman, you already know, okay, let me stay away from that because I don't know what her daddy might say. And so the rejection came right away, but I just said, hey, I seen you at Camp Sunshine, what's going on? We should hang out. Man, I didn't have the courage to actually ask her for a number. I found her on Facebook and I said, hey, you should hit me up sometime. She said, no, you need to call me. Ooh. And so, that's how I converted all over. And these guys, him, Fabian, and Andrew, and my buddy John, they was like, man, you crazy. You better go holler at these white women. And I'm like, man, bump them white girls. I don't want no part to do with them. And, God has bigger plans for your life, man. Oh, yeah. That's just being honest.
Yeah. No, man, we're definitely going to get back there, but I want to hear more on, like Rose said, white and black. You explained white. Now, why the black?
It's hard to see stains, hard to see things. It's black. It just kind of murdered out. You know what I mean? It's just, it looks sharp. I don't know. Black. You ever been to the white and black store? I mean, just to me, it is the polar opposites. It's sides of things. It just looks good together. No,
I love black. I love the color black. That is like probably my favorite color.
And it's a comfortable color, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it goes with everything. It just makes you look good,
Even if you kind of overweight, black just makes you look good.
It makes you look good. Yeah, it just makes you look good. Yeah, I like the color black. Man, if you can go back, no, I'll ask you that here in a minute. The best advice you've ever received.
I don't want to say I received it from somebody, but it's an old movie that was back in the day, and it was called Angels in the Outfield.
Oh, okay, yeah.
One of my favorite movies of all time. And in that movie, it was the little small black kid that was in that movie. His saying was always, "It can happen."
Yeah.
And that's what I always let myself know, just when it's looking at houses, when it's looking at jobs, when it's doing anything big in my life, I just have that in the back of my head. It can happen.
It can happen. Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that. I'm sticking with that.
Love it.
What you got?
I had a really good friend, like a sister to me, that would always say, wherever you are, be all there. That means,
I like that.
Be all in. Wherever you are, just don't think about what's going on tomorrow. Don't think about what's going on, outside of the room. Don't be on your phone. Wherever you are, be all there.
This is good.
Put your phone down. Be more engaged. And that's something I try to live by every day. it's a struggle because we live in this multitasking world where we're responsible for everything in the world, and we put the weight of the world on our shoulders, as if we're God, where we're gonna, I got to take care of this, and my kids need this, and I got to go to work, and what if I forget this, and what if I do this, and truly we don't stop to be all there. We don't stop to put 100% into that moment, 100% into that person. We end up, I think, in some form or fashion of selfishness, of some form or fashion of where we are neglecting the thing that's right in front of us. It just reminds me of the story of Jesus and Martha and Mary and she's running around trying to get the house clean and get everything perfect and I believe it was Mary was at the feet of Jesus and just putting oil and anointing him. She was in that moment. Wherever she was all there versus focusing on everything else. And I'm always so guilty of that, of going 100 miles per minute. And I try to think of that, and I go, man, that was probably the best advice, is because I'm like everywhere, squirrel, right? And so just going, all right, be all there, be wherever you are, just be all there.
Dude, that's so good, man. Love it. I love it. The worst advice you've ever received?
I'll go first on this one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The worst advice I ever received was get as many girls as you can. That was the absolute worst advice I've ever received in my life. But that was the model we lived by in the hood. That was just normal. It's be a player, be a Mac. That is the no, don't do that. It hurts you, it hurts them, it hurts your soul. It is horrible for you. And it's something that the earlier you learn that, the harder it is to get out of you. It is something, where you have soul ties. You give a piece of yourself here, give a piece of, but what you end up doing is you get some behaviors that carry over that you don't think about. There's things that you don't necessarily see until you start to learn that that's not right, and you start to change and grow, and you think it's 18, 20 years of it, you immediately are going to get it out of you, but it doesn't happen immediate. It's a process, right? And so that is the absolute worst advice anyone has ever given me. I think that this advice is up there with robbing a bank. Yeah, it's terrible.
I agree. Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
I don't know if I ever had some bad advice that somebody told me or I came around to. I could fall on the lines with Ro, because I guess I heard that too, growing up. I think as guys, you hear that in high school, like, man, get on them, and the more the merrier, So I don't think I actually had somebody, like, say anything, like bad advice to me that I can think of at this moment. So.
No. Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
What about if you can go back and talk to your teenage self, what advice would you give?
Man, take life serious. Man, take school serious. Because going back, what Ro was talking about, man, all about in high school, it was just, man, I worked at a car wash. It was making money, football, and girls. And if I can go back, I would just tell myself, man, focus more on school. Take it more serious.
Yeah.
Teenage Andre. Yeah.
Teenage Andre.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I would just say this too will pass. This too shall pass. That's probably what I would say is, it was rough for me during, in my teenage years. I was awkward. I didn't love myself. I thought everything was the end of the world. I took things very hard, whereas probably realizing that, like teenage crushes were hard. I had one girl that I was so in love with, thought I was going to marry, and that hit me hard for years, right? Because I wear my heart on my sleeve, and so I grew callous from that. family issues, and that thought that was going to be my life. That had to be me. This was going to encompass my life, and so I would just tell myself, "This too shall pass. It's just a day. It's just a day."
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. This too shall pass. I like it. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather be loved or feared?
Loved.
Yeah, I say loved all day because I'm a people person. And so not to say like, when people say that they don't want to please people, in a way, yes and no. Because you do want to please, people. You want to please them, showing them the love of God, You want them to see the best of you. And so I say, man, I'd rather be loved all day,
Yeah. I think fear is bad in the sense of, fear, you get a little bit of power while you're around. And while you're around, it's on people's mind. And people will jump when you tell them to because they fear you. But when you're loved, when you're not around, people are thinking about you. People will run through walls for you. People,
that's good.
People will do anything for you because they go, that guy, And generally speaking, when you're loved, they overlook your flaws. They know you have flaws, but they overlook them.
Yeah.
And so it allows you time to grow, time to change, time to develop, but also it gives you a sense of purpose because it works both ways. It's real hard to love someone and you hate them. You can't, if I'm loving on you, eventually I will wear you down. You can't hate me for forever. You will eventually wear down. And I will get better results if you love me than if you fear me.
Yeah. That's so good. I like it.
Yes.
Wow. Real good. You were talking about, I guess y'all pretty much grew up
similar,
same place.
Yeah,
for a little while around the corner
from each other. Yeah. Never known each other at all, but
not until we went to Rhema.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So where were y'all from? Where you really from?
Born
Detroit,
Michigan, 7 Mile and Evergreen. People when they think of Detroit, they think of 8 Mile.
Yeah.
And you have to actually go to Detroit and actually see that 8 Mile runs east side, west side, like
it runs through 20 different cities.
Yes.
Besides Detroit's on one side, and then Southfield's on one side, and you got Auburn Hills. You got all these other cities that's over there.
Yeah, but mine was 6 Mile and 7 Mile in Evergreen.
Yeah. That's really, I grew up, my grandma's house was between 7 Mile and Evergreen. So right around the corner. So just right there. It was half a mile to 8 Mile, and it was half a mile to 7 Mile.
Wow.
So we knew a lot of the same people and didn't even know each other. So.
Went to the same church or Word of Faith.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you ever went to camp.
Nah, I never got to go to camp. Didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go to camp until I moved to Alabama. We really still didn't have the money, and I had to work to get that money. But living in Detroit, man, it's very tough for anybody to actually grow up in Detroit.
And it's real tough to try to live right. I'm just going to be honest, because you're a square, you're a lane. But when 95%, man, woman, child, grandmas, everybody is scheming and plotting, either on the system, whether it's the government or the local or even something so simple as sneaking on the bus, sneaking food in the movie theaters, or not paying for a movie ticket. That's just normal. I remember being taught how to steal.
Wow.
Taught how to steal.
Yeah. I remember having to sleep on the floor. They had something that was in Detroit called Devil's Night.
Oh,
What's it
yeah.
called?
Devil's Night.
Devil's Night.
Yes. And so my mom will always say, this is she was like, all right, y'all, tonight is Devil's Night. Now they call it Angel's Night.
Yeah.
So weird.
It's right before, it's Halloween, isn't it? Or is it the day before?
I think it's the day before.
I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
One of the two.
But my mom used to tell us, she said, okay, y'all, it's Devil's Night. We're going to be sleeping on the floor tonight. So what people do in Detroit, And times might have changed. But people would go through the neighborhoods with their guns shooting up in the air. Set old abandoned houses, man. You drive in Detroit. One day we gonna have to go to Detroit. I was just telling Jamie we all need to make a road trip and just go. And y'all can experience the inner life city. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, Detroit summertime, shoot.
Popping.
Jumping. Like everybody is out barbecuing, you know, like it's the city life. Yeah. But Detroit has a lot of poverty. Lots of inner city, man, because I remember growing up in Detroit and, man, there was a good bit of middle schools. There were a good bit of high schools. When I went back after I finished Camp Sunshine and tried to save up money, they closed down majority of all the high schools that's in the inner city.
Yeah, they closed down.
And when you combine... When you combine a school district that's on the east side to a school district that's on the west side, you already know you're gonna have fights all day. Yeah. Because you get people that say, man, I'm Joy Road. I'm Joy Road. And then you get people that's over here that say, I'm Highland Park. I don't
know if anybody ever claimed Highland Park.
No, my dad still claimed Highland Park, you know. But, you know, Highland Park back in the day was one of the most wealthiest places. You see a long time ago, you see a lot of colonial homes. So Detroit used to be on a really high market because of Ford, Chrysler, GM. You know, when all those big motor companies collapsed, that city just, it was already poverty. Now it's like barely getting by. Like my mom, she bought her house in Detroit for $1,000.
Yeah, like no, that's cheap. That's
cheap.
Normal. That's normal now. And
really proud about it too.
Yeah, well, and it's like
it's in the hood.
We grew up with turntables. You know, you go in with 4-inch bulletproof glass into the store.
That's
you pass it through the turntable and get Murder Mac on Joy Road in Southfield. Everybody knows like Murder Mac, right? Yeah, you just don't go there after night. You don't go. You're possibly gonna get shot.
And it's still like that way to this day. Because my mom live off of Joy Road right now.
Yeah, and it's still, and that's what you grew up in. Was you always had to watch your back. Everybody claimed the street, right? So if Joy Road was having a fight against anybody, I don't care if it was Schoolcraft, Dexter, or Linwood, or it's that, or you claimed your high school. You get on a bus, and if it passed 2 high schools, you knew you were gonna fight. If he's fighting, you fighting because you with him. That was the norm, was trying to survive. So it was always getting over or one up, and so even your homeboys, you still never knew if y'all were gonna be homeboys for real, or if something was gonna change. If he gets jealous because you got a new pair of shoes, or you got a girl, or you got a good grade, or you did anything, you didn't know.
It's so crazy there because, and it's not to knock Detroit because I know Detroit is not for me, but it's for other people. But whenever I graduated Camp Sunshine, I had in my head, I said, I'm going to go stay with my mom. And at this time, my mom stayed on 7 Mile of Evergreen. I'm going to stay with my mom, and I'm going to save up money. I'm going to get me a car, because I never had a car in my name before. I'm going to save up for a car, and I'm going to save up for at least 6 months of rent and move back to Tulsa. So I have a wad of my money in my right pocket for all the money that I had at Camp Sunshine, well, majority of it, all in my right pocket. And then in my back pocket, I have my mom's EBT card. And I told my mom why I didn't jump in her car. I don't know. I said, Mom, I'm about to go to the corner store because it's popular to go to the corner store. Everywhere in Detroit, there's a corner store. Corner store in Coney Island. But Coney Island be jumping. But anyway, I left out the house and I'm walking up to the major city. I'm walking up to Evergreen. And while I'm walking up, this is when it was real popular. I had on my backpack. I have on a flat bill hat, tall tee. Anyway, I'm walking up to the store, and it's an old guy that's standing here on the corner, and the school released, and you got a bunch of those high school kids that's across the street on the other side of Evergreen. And while I'm walking, I'm on the phone with our good buddy friend Fabian, and I'm telling him, I said, man, God is telling me to move back to Tulsa. And he's just telling me, he was like, man, well, you need to do what God is telling you to do. But I'm like, man, I need to be saving the money. Because I need to have a foundation by the time I get back to Tulsa. He was like, man, God will work it out. You just probably need to come back to Tulsa. So I just hang up the phone with him, and I'm walking down the street. And in Detroit, it's real big. A lot of people in Detroit is haters. You have a lot of haters that's in Detroit. So these kids are walking up to this old man, and in the back of, in the back of my head, I'm like, they about to jump this old guy. And instead of, I see them reaching in their bag, so I'm thinking, okay, one of them got a pistol. And in the back of my, when I walked past, that kid said, let's not get him, let's get him. So when I heard them say that, I'm taking off running down the street. I'm going. And so you got a bunch of kids that's cutting me off going right here. And this one kid, I'm running and they all slow down, but this one kid ain't slowing down. So in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm about to fold this kid real fast. And so I turn around and caught him while he's coming up to me. I picked him up, slammed him on the ground, and I start beating him down. Next thing you know, the mother kids came and kicked me straight in the face, kicked me in the head, and I'm all balled down the ground like this. And all that I can remember is hearing traffic, everybody blowing their horns, and they just driving past. It's normal in Detroit.
Nobody stopped.
Nobody stopped.
That's normal.
And they just riding past, and I'm around probably 21 years old or so.
Yeah.
And so one lady, she pulled up, hopped the curve, and she said, get in, baby. And everybody, they reaching on my pockets. Normally, I have over $500 in my pocket. They reaching in my pockets, didn't grab nothing out of my pocket, but they grabbed the EBT card, and they took off running. Took my backpack, took my cell phone, everything. And the lady took me back home to my mom, and I'm banging on my mom's door like, Mom, these boys just jumped me or whatever. My mom went in her room, grabbed their pistol, and drove right on up there. But that's normal in Detroit. Probably, like, I moved back with Roe. Right after that, I got on a Greyhound, moved in with Roe. Probably a couple of months later, my mom, she moved back up to Detroit once I graduated. But she's just getting off the bus. She called all her family members saying, hey, could you pick me up? Because her car is in the shop. Mm-hmm. Hey, could you pick me up and drop me off to the house? And nobody would pick up their phone. And so my mom had to get on the city bus. It's real popular to get on a city bus in Detroit. So she got on the city bus, started going to her house. When she got off on her stop, she said she seen this car keep on going, circling back and forth around the neighborhood. So my mom said, she heard the door shut, and the guy just ran up right behind her with a 12-gauge shotgun behind her head. Said, drop everything that you got. How you supposed to feel if your mama telling you this?
Yeah.
If this is the norm in the big town. So my mom said she dropped everything that she had out of her back pocket. And the guy said, don't turn around, you better keep moving. And so she kept on moving, and they found one of the guys, because the guys were so dumb that they used her Blockbuster card.
That's how you know it's Blockbuster.
Used her Blockbuster card at Blockbuster, and they caught him. And she said she had to testify against him in the court. And he's looking around the room because he robbed so many people that he don't even know who she is.
Oh, wow.
That's normal. Like, that's the lifestyle that we had to grow up in until my mom heard from God. And Keith Butler have churches all around the U.S. Mm-hmm. But she heard that they were starting up a ministry in Alabama and said, okay, I need to move my kids out of this, and moved us to Birmingham.
So how was it growing up for both of y'all? Like, I know y'all both pretty much, y'all lived kind of in the same area, but then y'all lived different lives also. So, like, what was it like for you growing up?
So growing up, I really didn't grow up with my mom. So I remember early memories of my mom and my dad. We stayed with my mom's mother, Ertine, which is like my favorite I was her favorite grandchild. But I remember that because my mom was adopted, and she has an adopted brother and adopted sister, and I kind of we don't have touch with them anymore. And that's been years, right? So I kind of grew up I got an older brother who my mom had before my dad was in the picture. Then it's me, and then it's my younger brother, Lo, and then I got another brother, Ronaldo, and little sister, L'Oreal. Then I have a brother through my dad and his ex-wife, Junior is what we call him, Ronaldo Jr. And the way we grew up poor. We grew up where I remember taking cabs everywhere or walking everywhere, but I grew up seeing people in and out of the house all the time, no stability. Mom was on drugs, dad was on drugs, so we were absentee left with grandma sometimes, or sometimes we'd be left with a family friend, or we would just be left kind of alone. I grew up in a way that you survived. You do everything for yourself. You handle it. You just do it. Didn't have a strong. My dad was around. Don't get me wrong. He was around, but he worked all the time. Like he worked 60, 70, 80 hours, and then he was tired, and then he was trying to get himself together and fighting his demons, and then, mom wasn't really around. So I didn't, never really had a mom. So and then I had, my stepmom who didn't really like us, and then I had a family friend. She became like our godmother, and so when I talk about my mom, it's more like a title. Like, how the president comes in every 4 years? It's like, this person is my mom. They're one person. It's just a title, if that makes sense. So I don't distinguish who did what. It's just like the president did it. So mom did it. Nothing consistent. So I didn't really know. And my dad was always kind of a Mac. And so I never really knew the proper way of how to treat women, how to approach even a healthy relationship with a sister or a mother, because I didn't grow up with my sister. I didn't grow up seeing anything healthy. Everything I learned was from Family Matters, right? Step by step, TV shows, learning and modeling everything after that. So I kind of grew up, I remember, one summer we stayed at a crack house in Highland Park, and for the summer, and we didn't even have blankets, and it was cold. And so I know they had the AC on blast, and I remember roaches, right? So I hate roaches still to this day, but roaches, and trying to keep the roaches away, and shivering and in a sweatshirt, and going down to the corner store, scraping up enough money to go down to the corner store from pumping gas and washing people's windows so we could have food. I remember that, and being responsible for my younger siblings. So when I remember eating a lot of ramen, eating a lot of things that we could. I remember digging through the trash to eat at times. I remember my stepmom putting us out or saying, this isn't for you. Like the food, like this is my food in the refrigerator. Or when I went to go with my grandma, she had her food, my dad's mom, her food labeled, or my uncle or my aunt or whatever in the refrigerator. Everybody, it wasn't a family. We were just some people that lived together. It wasn't that it wasn't love there, but no one had seen. So my dad's father was abusive. He didn't stay married to my grandmother. His father hadn't stayed married. My dad didn't stay married. And so that's what you model. That's what you see. Mm-hmm. Nobody else, that's what you see. When you're at a point where you don't really know Jesus, because my dad's side of his family was all Muslim. And my mom's side of the family, Jehovah's Witness.
Wow.
So when you're talking about not knowing morals and virtues and things like that, and then you start to hear from God, but you still have all of these things in you that you're trying to get out. Mm. You have these demons that you fight with, but you put on this smile because the world doesn't care about your problem. I remember getting jumped in high school, swinging, and you just look up and it's like it's too many of them. I remember fighting because I had some guy's ex-girlfriend and fighting over this. I remember some of the wild things that I did to try to fit in, to try to impress people, to try to be something I wasn't. I'm not a good dancer, but I always wanted to dance. I remember taking on personas so I could try to be like somebody else. I would name them. Like literally when I wanted to learn something, I'd go, this is Sir Learn a Lot. Like that was a persona that I put on. I didn't like myself. So I tried to be everything to everybody. If you were all about sports, then I wanted to be all about sports because that's what was cool. That's what I thought would make someone like me.
So why didn't you like yourself? What caused that?
Abandonment. I felt like my mom left me, my dad left me. Nobody ever wanted me. It was always I got to work. I'm busy. I'm this, and I don't mean like legitimate, but if I needed help with homework, I just had to figure it out. If I needed something, because so many people, my younger siblings counted on me, and then I also had to pay bills because we never had enough money. I had to earn money. I had to sell candy, or I had to. So I felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders all the time. I had to provide. It's my job to provide. It's my job. If I need school clothes, yeah, there were some, but not enough hand-me-downs. So it was my responsibility, and I felt like no one loved me. And then I see my friends, and then you start seeing people, and they got nicer stuff, and you see their families go on vacation, and you see them do stuff, and you're going, well, why me? And then I have a stepmother telling me, well, we could do this, but it's your fault. You ugly like your mama. When you hear things like that start to eat at you. And I remember one day stepmom punched me in the mouth with her rings on because I had either did something or said something. I questioned her. I wasn't disrespectful, but I questioned something. I remember, boom, right in the mouth. Right? I remember that. I remember being told, stay outside. You missed curfew by 5 minutes. Go back to where you came from. I remember riding my bike from Joy Road in Evergreen over to 7 Mile in Evergreen to where my grandmother lived. When I was in middle school, 6th grade.
That's
6th
a long
grade.
haul.
And we did that all summer, and no one cared. And you would think, oh man, that world was different. All the things that could have happened, but never felt valued. Never felt like I mattered. Never felt like that I was precious. And so I grew up with an inferiority complex, right? And then had some girlfriends that rejected me. And so from that, I said, I never want to get hurt again because I was a bleeding heart and it hurt. And so you start to wear, and you can't change where your heart is, but I decided to harden my heart. No one else is going to hurt me. No one's going to hurt me. And then you go to church, and to some degree, they're just kids, but it's the same thing. It's a popularity contest to some degree. To some degree, you have the jocks, you have the pretty girls, the pretty guys, you have the popular people, and you want to be popular. Yeah. You want the skills you just want camaraderie. You want people around you. You just want to feel loved. And you'll do anything in your power to feel loved, to fill that void. And growing up, we never had much. I was embarrassed to show people where I lived. No, just drop me off over here. Right? I was embarrassed. It's not because, and I didn't understand. I didn't understand that this did not have to be life for forever. I thought that was just the way. I seen my uncle and my grandmother and my aunt, and they all lived in the same house for forever. And that's where they were. That's where I had never seen anybody do any better. The only people I had seen do better looked down on me. Like I was nothing. I was dating a girl and her family lived in the wealthy part of town. And I mean, when I say wealthy, I mean, it was like, I knew they had money. And I went over her house one time and I felt so inadequate. I felt this small. They were talking about books and things that they read and asked me what I do. And I'm in high school. I think I was in ninth grade or so. And I felt this big. I felt like I was nothing because I did not go to a prestigious school, or I didn't have what did your parents do? They were like, a professor and a doctor or something to that prestigious. And when I go, my dad works at the city. He's a bus driver. I had nothing to be proud of. I couldn't say that I had anybody in my family that had ever done anything. Well, I knew who my grandfather was on my dad's side and who my grandmother was, but I can't trace my lineage any farther. My grandfather I only knew a couple times. I remember my dad pulling over to pick him up to try to help him, and he's like, no, I'm good. He was on the corner begging for money. And I thought, well, if my grandfather's this, a drunkard, a beggar, and my father's a drug addict, and my mom's a drug addict, right? And then nobody in my family is worth anything. How am I ever going to be worth anything? How am I ever going to accomplish anything? How am I ever going to do anything? Yeah, I was smart. I could get straight A's. It was easy. Yeah, that part's easy. But what difference does it make if I have nowhere to go? Yeah, great, you get straight A's, but college is not a perspective. I have no life skills. I have nothing. No one to show me, no one to guide me. And that was up until I was about 16, when I was about 16, 17 years old, and we had some youth leaders.
So when did you start going to church?
I started going to church. I went the first time I was a kid, but I don't even really remember it. But I started going to Word of Faith when I went a couple times in ninth grade year. And that's when before my mother died and before my dad went to prison. And then I didn't start going back to church until I was probably almost 11th grade, 10th, 11th grade, started going back to church. And then that's when I had some youth leaders that stepped up, that showed me, that started to model some things for me. They didn't have it all together, but I had some guys that showed me. I had a youth pastor that showed me some things that helped me open my eyes, that took me. I remember being taken to the mall. Not the mall, but it was like a strip mall, and they had, all these shops, and I can't even remember where it was, in Novi or somewhere in there, and it was real nice and shown. And then I remember also being able to be taken somewhere. I learned about real estate and started learning about real estate appraisals, and I had a great mentor there that was started to teach me some things, taught me a little bit more how to dress, right? Don't just wear baggy clothes all the time. Started to teach me and started to help lift me up, and started asking me questions like, what do you want? What do you want to do? What's important to you? Well, where do you want to be? Well, why don't you, hey, let me show you so you can help me. Yeah. Hey, let me teach you how to drive, right? Let me show you some things. And that's when it started to change. It was just a thought that I could do better. I had finally seen some people do better than what I was doing. Better than what I had ever seen. I finally had seen something I had never seen before. And that was a seed that started to get watered.
Dude. Wow. What kind of effect did it have on you when your mom died and when your dad went to prison?
I just took the weight. I knew I had to take care of my younger siblings. I had a little brother there that I needed to take care of, and I numbed the pain. I never dealt with it. I hadn't dealt with it until pretty recent. I just pushed it away and said, okay, I got to work. I got to make sure that we have a place to live. We have somewhere to eat. We have things. So I guess I'm the man of the house now. And because my stepmother kicked us out after that. No reason to keep us around. Dad's in prison.
So when your dad went to prison, she kicked you out?
Yeah, pretty much immediately after. 2 months or so. So we went to stay with her grandmother, and I knew that wasn't feasible. She had raised her children to some degree, and was not feasible. So we had a neighbor that used to live around the corner from us. So while my stepmother lived here, my neighbor lived right there, just right around the corner. And so that's where we stayed instead of staying with our stepmom.
And y'all stayed there until you graduated high school?
Until I graduated high school. So 10th grade year and 11th grade year was, because I graduated a year early. So 10th and 11th grade year for about 2 years. And they did the best they can with what they had to teach us. And they didn't necessarily, she kind of gave up custody, if you will. And my stepmom didn't want to deal with it. So she took Dad's money and what he had from all his illicit activities, and we were nothing. So therefore, that's how I kind of numbed it, and yeah, that's really.
Wow, man, dang it, some real stuff right there. Very, very, very. What about you, Andre?
Not kind of similar like Rose. And it's crazy because everything that goes on in the inner city like that, like that's the normal. And it shouldn't be the normal, but I just remember growing up in Detroit. Detroit probably was some of my roughest times. Growing up, fighting, my single and living in a single parent home, but we got to go over to my dad's house every other week. But growing up in my mom's house and seeing your mom, I remember my mom calling us into the room just crying and just saying, I'm about to go to jail. I'm about to go to jail because of not being able to pay the bills, like owing them so much. I remember growing up on Burgess, and we had the only yellow house that was kind of decent house that my mom was renting in that neighborhood. And I remember that abandoned house that was right there, which they set on fire during Devil's Night, and we had crackheads that lived right next door, and they used to knock on our door probably every other night, just reading our mail. And so they heard my mom, like they see my mom's name, but they so strung out, and they knocking on our door. My mom's name is Sherry, and they were, I remember them saying, "Is Sher home? Is Sher home?" And like life was pretty good while I was in Detroit, and then it was kind of bad because of everything that I got into. Like it was normal not to graduate in through high school or middle school on my dad's side of the family. So on my dad's side of the family, it's me and my brother that's with my mom, and then man, Junior Javon. Then it's another boy that I don't know nothing about, and then you have 4 or 5 other sisters from my dad. And my dad would get us all together and we would hang out all on his side of the family, and it was good. But that's where the dark side came in, was on his side of the family. That's where I learned the street life, was on his side of the family. My mom's family it wasn't that many grandkids on my mom's side of the family other than my 2 cousins. But it was a blessing when my mom said, well, my aunt moved out to Alabama to start off with, and I went up there for the summer. And I once I went up there, man, it was the first time I got to experience everything, how to swim. Like my wife still say, I can't swim. But I learned how to swim. I learned how to play football. I learned how to play baseball. It's because I got out of that inner city and got to experience life. But once we moved down to Alabama, that really didn't change much, because once that big city is in you, it will always be in you. So we were still experienced to the city life, and my mom still single parent mom, still wasn't able to get no kind of job. I can't even think of a good job that my mom had all in the years that we lived in Alabama. Only job that I remember my mom having was working in like a Dollar General and maybe like an old people home. You know, because when you come from the city life and transportation of the city life, and then when you go to Birmingham, which is no inner city transportation, how to get to jobs and stuff. Man, I remember it was times that I was embarrassed, you know. My mom had this old neon. And man, this neon, it would backfire on you. And I remember her coming to pick me up from school because we went to high school at was definitely not in our budget. When we went to high school was in a multicultural school. It was in a high part in Hoover, Alabama. No, like the finances that we did have was no way that I should have been going to this school. But thank God I was able to graduate from that school. But I remember my mom coming to pick us up in that neon, and it's so embarrassing once the bell ring, all the kids are leaving out the school, and my mom's still just trying to sit there and crank up the car. And when she finally get the car, it backfire, and then we take off, and you in front of all your friends. Like, I didn't get to experience that life. Don't get me wrong, like, I am blessed the life that, you know, that I was raised, but to see all your friends driving around in Porsches, being able to go to different activities, like the coaches had to pay for me to play football. I didn't have no finances to buy cleats and none of that stuff.
Oh, so you had to buy your own equipment to play sports?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
It was not given to
This was in high school?
This was in high school. Yeah. I remember having to buy football cleats. I remember, man, just whenever I first finally got my job, I remember having to pay for a light bill, having to pay for a gas bill, because I remember taking showers in a bathroom in Alabama. Like my aunt, she had a great job, and whenever my aunt was working, she because my aunt has at least like 30 degrees, and she's still in school this day. She always had a great job, but when she was living in the house, so it's 4 boys. One of the boys just passed away 2 years ago, I'm gonna say. So now it's 3 boys, and it was my little sister, and we all grew up in that house together. And so just picture like trying to feed 4 boys and a little girl, and it's my mom and aunt. But once they moved out the house and they moved to another part of Alabama, it was just my mom with no job or nothing. And I remember going in there taking cold showers, like getting underneath the water and stepping back. You know, like we didn't have that that life that, you know, that was like, you know, like flashy or anything, but it was just a thankful, you know, of what we did have. You know, because if they still raised me in Detroit, I don't think that, well, my mom probably pushed me, but it's a chance that I probably wouldn't graduated from high school. There's a chance that, because I look at my cousins and stuff all on Facebook right now, majority of them have tons of kids that they not in their lives. They haven't graduated from high school. They still living with mommy and daddy. Well, I don't want to say mommy and daddy, just mama. Like, I'm so thankful that God had grace was on my life from my mom to move us down to Alabama.
Do you feel like, and this is for both of y'all, like like the streets, learning the game, learning the streets, do you feel like it's helped you even now? Like having the street smarts, you know, you talk to different people here, and not even just here, you talk to people anywhere that didn't grow up, say, in an area like that. And it's just like, man, they have no street smarts.
Yes.
So, like, how has that helped you?
Man, just awareness. Awareness is number one. My wife always say, She said, Andre, why you always looking behind you? I said, because if you came from where I come from, you always gonna be looking over your shoulder because you don't know who's going to be coming to get you at any time. You don't know anybody's motives of, what they've been going through. Knowing how to bargain on things. Like that hustle life is in my head all day long.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Learning who the players are in a room, in the game of, when I say the players, I mean like you can walk into a room and you know who's in charge.
Or who's fake and not fake,
right.
You
or
the
tell
real deal.
Who's really friends. You can start to tell some of those things. But also I learned, man, I know how many card games I know how to play because all I did was gamble. That's how I made money. So I learned that, but I learned you had to learn when to walk away. When do when to hold them and when to fold them. But also I would say that learning what is actually the most important thing to do is safety. The most important thing is when you look at a situation, you look at a group, and you get that the hair comes up on the back of your neck. You just know, right? You learn not to carry a bunch of cash. You learn to carry a throwdown wallet, right? You carry 2 wallets, one with like a 20 and some ones in it that you throw, and you learn that you never throw it at them. You throw it away from them so that they have to go get it. So it gives you time to get away. You learned that people don't always have good intentions. You start to learn that not everybody's your friend. Not everybody has your best interest at heart. You learn that alliances and allegiances shift very quickly. Friends today, enemies tomorrow. You learn that you can't depend on man. You need to depend on God. You have to learn who your actual source is versus what's not your source. Learning those things, I would say first in the streets. And then I would probably think is you learn to guard yourself and you learn to carry yourself. There's a different way that you carry yourself if you want to fit in, look thuggish, or do you want to stand out? And one of the most important things I learned is when people, they break in cars that look clean. So, I mean, you leave yours dirty and nobody ever touch it. Nobody will ever break into it because they assume that if you have nothing of value. You can have $10 million in there, but no one will touch it.
That's crazy when you said the money thing, and I forgot all about that. Like, even when I'm going to go get my hair cut or something like that, or me and Jamie are going somewhere, I said, babe, I need exact cash. I said, I don't need, just say if my haircut is $25, I'm taking 30.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm taking 30. I don't need nothing else because I don't need to let them know that I have more. Mm-hmm. And that's bad. That's kind of bad, but that's the mentality that we have that's stuck in us because if they know that you have more, they go use you and expect that you have more.
Yeah.
So you take exact, like for my wife, like she always say, dude, like if we're going somewhere big, do you want to take cash so we don't use the card? I said, no, we don't need cash on us. Mm-hmm. We don't need. I said we can always shred a card. You can't shred cash.
Do you lock your doors all the time?
All the time.
Is your house door always locked?
Always locked. With
car doors?
Car doors always locked. I got Jamie locking the boat lock.
Right.
I said,
out of habit.
Yeah, out of habit. You don't like, and it's crazy because houses here in Seminole. The first thing that I thought about when I moved here to Seminole and I hear people leave their doors and stuff open, that's a no-no for me. But you look at these doors here in Seminole, if it's one of these older homes that we're used to, boy, in Detroit, all you got to do is just bump up against the door and the door is unlocked. Mm-hmm. Like, I think about that all the time. I'm like, babe, we got to get new doors on the house. Mm-hmm. Because of the way that we were raised, like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. Like, I want to make sure my family is protected so much that, just even like things that she don't know, I want to let her know,
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I forgot all about like that's still rooted in me,
Mm-hmm. Man. Yeah. No, and that's good, man. I love it, man. I love that input for sure, man. I love it. So when did y'all decide to go to Rhema? Like what even?
Okay, so I was going to Word of Faith, and so this favorite scripture at the time was oh my God, what I just Mark 11 verse 23. I think it's Mark 11 verse 23. Now I have to think about it. It says, whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt and believe, and sorry, it shall be done. I think that's the scripture. Why did I just forget? You called me on the spot. But and so that was scripture at the time. I think it's Mark 11:23. Don't quote me on that. But that was favorite scripture, and that popped up, right? That was something. So I was at a New Year's party, and a girl from Rhema, from Word of Faith, but she was going to Rhema. Don't know her from Adam. Never seen the girl a day in my life. Handed me a Rhema application and said, God told me to give this to you. Oh, I'm like, okay. I looked at it, I was like, whatever. And then I looked at it, and the verse was there. I'm like, God, are you telling me something? And so I got that. And I'm like, okay, all right. And then it just kept rising up in my spirit, go check this out. And then our, Bishop Butler is graduated from Rhema, so I kind of knew, and I'm like, yeah, but I was scared to travel all the way to Oklahoma. And so I didn't have anything. So, but it kept rising up in my spirit. Long story short, I decided to be obedient and go. And the first year that I got down there, I didn't even get to go to Rhema. I was so heartbroken and disappointed. I didn't have the money. He got to go, but we didn't get to go. I didn't get to go. I did get to go the next year, though. Barely.
Yeah.
I don't even know how I made it through Rhema, but did. So,
let me ask you this. When you were at Rhema, was gambling still there?
No, I didn't gamble at all at Rhema.
Where we showed play some spades.
We did play some spades. I wilded out a little bit while I was at Rhema. And so, but, yeah, no.
Is that where you met Esther?
I hadn't met Esther before I went to Rhema, but she had went to ORU because she's a couple years older than I am. So she went down there, and then, when I actually, crazy story, I called Fabian. He didn't even realize who I was, but because he had gave me his number when we were in Word of Faith. He said, hey, man, I'm in Oklahoma. Call me if you ever need anything, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. And so I called him, and I guess he was trying to figure out who I was while we was at the party. I was on my way down because I was going to help with a fashion show, or I think it was a fashion show, because he ended up going with me at some point in time. But I called him, and he was trying to figure out who I was, and I guess Esther remembered me for some reason. I don't know, but she did. And so me and Esther talked for a long time on the phone, and so that was kind of how it happened.
Okay.
He was a little chaser. That's what he was.
I did. So you weren't a player like Andre.
No, that's not the case.
No, we don't.
That's not the case.
I ain't trying to get you in trouble.
We'll just say this: the old man is harder to kill than what we think, and you have to keep him buried every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Oh man, what about you, Andre? What made you want to go to Rhema?
Man, always knew that it was something about me being different.
Yeah, you different.
Yeah, that's true. Being different. I remember being in high school going to church camp. Man, our church camps was off the chains. We had some of just picture churches from Michigan, from Arizona, from Texas, from Keith Butler have churches all over the world. Mm-hmm. And we all get together and we take over a university and have camp at that university. So,
wow.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, amazing.
How many students?
Boy, over thousands.
Dang. Wow.
Man. Awesome, man. Boy, it's so funny because we had this evangelist, and every time she came up, it was Evangelist K. Mm-hmm. Boy, I remember Evangelist K used to come up, and she just passed away too, I believe. But Evangelist K used to come up Thursday nights at camp. And she said, all right. She was like, she stopped her message. She said, all right, Holy Spirit's telling me all these kids that's been in here smoking weed, come down front. She was like, and like kids to just get up and some kids would be still sitting down. She was like, all right. She was like, if I have to come grab you from the seat and bring you up here to get your life right, then that's what we are going to do. And I went up there because I was hanging around with some of the wrong people. I always used to hang out with guys older than me because whenever I was in high school, my brother, he was one of the biggest running backs that was in school. Mm. And so they called him Batman. And so whenever I got in school, they called me Little Batman. And so I remember hanging out with them. And so I started going down the wrong road, because these are some of the things that my brother's boys used to do. And I remember going up there from camp, and man, I said, all right, Lord, I'm going to do what you want me to do. I'm going to do what you want me to do. And this was my senior year after I graduated at camp. And I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do. In my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to the University of Alabama. I'm going there and I'm turning up. I'm going to every last Kappa party, sorority party, like anything that's out there, I'm going to turn up. And whenever she laid hands on me, my old youth pastor was Rose's good friend, Minister Erica. Mm-hmm. And they all had some part of Rhema that they went to. And I remember she showing me on the computer about Rhema and stuff. And whenever I was up there and she was praying with me, Rhema popped up in my head. Saying Rhema. And so I just took that step. I told my mom I applied to go to Rhema, and I got accepted, and I just went there. My mom packed me all up on a Greyhound bus, and we went down to Oklahoma. No money, no nothing. All the money that I had is all the money that I saved up working at the car wash. And my church gave me $500 to go. But it was nice that I used to go to my room and I'd cry on my pillow because they told me, Andre, if you don't have the money, some of the money, we gonna have to kick you out of school. Mm-hmm. But
I remember those.
Yeah, it was tough going to Bible school. We didn't.
Yeah, we shared a room.
Yeah,
a room.
Is that how y'all met? Was over there at Rhema?
Yeah. So, I moved to. My mom dropped me off. So Rhema has a little dashboard once you go in there, and it has like jobs and it has places to live. And so my mom found this one, and I'm all like, Mom, I don't know these people. And she was like, just try it out. You can live there for 6 months. You can find your own thing and you can move on. So I wound up staying there. Minister Erica called me saying, hey, I got a buddy coming down and he don't have a place to stay. Is it cool? I said, yeah, tell him to come on. We stayed in a little room, probably
not even
I was going to say about the same size as this, but no, not even close.
Not even close to maybe half this way. Like it was tiny.
And me and Ro just got real close, man. Ro came in with 3 black trash bags.
Trash bags. That was all I had.
Full of clothes, and I had one little suitcase that I had, that I packed up, and man, we made it work. I had a little Nextel phone with prepaid minutes on there, and I remember me and Ro took times calling our family whenever we could. Where the next meal was going to come from, we didn't know. They had something that was called the Iron Bank. And I remember, and they had late skate.
Mm-hmm. Oh, boy.
Man, we used to get all fresh in our tall tees, our Air Force Ones on, our little fitted on and stuff. And we used to go there at the Iron Bank and stuff and eat the crackers and stuff that they had. Because that's all that we had for dinner going to Rhema.
Mm-hmm. Till I got a job in a restaurant, started bringing food home. It was like a miracle.
Boy, yes.
Where'd you work at?
I worked at Campbell's for a while, and then I worked at Cheddar's and then Texas Roadhouse. So now I started working at Texas Roadhouse. We were eating good, boy. Mess up order, thank you. Take it home, steak. You know, but those were, I mean, that was probably the most informative time. And you don't realize how much is in you. And then you get this freedom. You get kind of, and your freedom to go and do, but you have this responsibility. And then you want to live right, but you ain't never really lived right.
Yes.
And so most people don't understand because they go, well, I've seen this from my dad or my mom. But then you get hard on yourself because you get this condemnation because you go, I know better, but where do I didn't do better. And then you start to feel like a fraud. And you go, well, we're as Christians, I feel like we're real good with the lost, but not real good with the found. We're real good with outreaching and reaching those and going, hey, bring your sins and we forgive you. And yes, we rejoice that you're new. But when you're a believer and you make a mistake, it's not the same. You're wounded. So the sharks circle. And instead of helping you and loving you and restoring you, what we do is we eat our own. We start to chew and go, well, you're a believer. You know better. You should have self-control. You're supposed to have the fruit of the Spirit. You're supposed to do this. You're this. You're that. And you do that to yourself as well. And you feel like the love of God is something that belongs to other people. And he died for your sins once you confess them. But after that, now you have to pay penance for your sins. Now you have to pay for your sins as if his blood didn't cover it. So you feel that weight. And then you feel like the body comes across that way towards you. So we're not real good at restoring. We're real good at kicking you to the side, ostracizing you, and going, this is you now. And I think of the story about Jesus with the thief on the cross. He didn't ask him, how many days ago did you sin? What did you do to get yourself in this position? How could you have done something better? What could you have done? He didn't ask all of that. He just said, today you'll be with me in paradise. Your sins are forgiven. Today you'll be with me in paradise. And I feel like we get to a point where we think that we have to work and we have to earn forgiveness back from God and forgiveness back from people. And instead of going, well, God forgives me right then and there. He says, it doesn't matter if you went out and you murdered somebody, but if you repented truly in your heart, he says, it's over and done with. I don't deal with it anymore. Now, yeah, there's sometimes consequences, right? There's some things that go with it, but he says, I forgive you. I love you. The only thing I know is I want you to come home. I think of the story about the prodigal son. He ran up and said, let me put a robe on you. Let me put a ring on you. He didn't say, son, what did you do? How did you get yourself in this mess? Now let's talk about the 21 steps to get out. He just says, I love you. And I'm glad my son returned home.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the, probably the if I could say biggest messages from my life is every day I work on forgiving myself. Because every day I sin, right? We call it a mistake, but let's just go, I sin. I miss the mark of God. I transgress, right? Sometimes I know it's wrong and I still do it, right? And we do those things, but if we allow those things to stop us, then we'll never accomplish the mission of God. You fight through those things to get to where you need to be. But we weigh and we judge sin, right? We weigh and judge it and go, well, lying ain't quite as bad as theft. And then, well, adultery is really bad and murders, woo, right? And then you start to weigh. And then you start to get that guilt and that condemnation where Jesus, if we live by Jesus' standard, nobody. He said, if you hate your brother without a cause, right? He says, you're guilty of murder. He says, because you hate him without a cause, you're guilty of murder. He says, if you look at a woman to lust after her, then you've committed adultery. His standards are so high, we could never reach him. But if we look at it as if we could never reach it and say, I won't even try, then you'll never grow. But if we understand that we can never reach him without him, then we can. And I think that was probably the hard part for me while I was at Rhema was going, you got all these PKs and third generations and I'm around all these people that, you look like they ain't never committed a sin a day in their life.
And that's a lot from the pig.
Right. But that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And then you got me and Andre, and we over here, the heathen boys. And you can't even say, look, man, I'm struggling. Help me. Because they're like, well, you know better. I'm going to tell you, you need this, this, and this, and just don't do it. Like, if it was that easy, don't you think it would just be done? Like, I mean, if you could save yourself, wouldn't you have done it already? If the thinking you had that caused the problem could get you out of the problem, you would have never had the problem. But there's some things that sometimes they're deep rooted, and sometimes you don't even know how to get out. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just don't even know that it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I think, those are probably some of the things that plagues the church, plagues the body, plagues each and every one of us. And then we don't use the ministry of reconciliation. We don't go restore. We don't go back and fix what is broken and build each other up and say, I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to carry you through this. You may not make it, but I'm your brother. It doesn't matter what you did to me. It does not matter how our relationship was broken. It does not matter. I am going to see restoration puts you back into place before you ever sinned. It's not a lower place, but it puts you back as if sin never existed in the relationship. And we don't do that. We go, you sinned against me. I remember that. Yeah. You hurt me. I remember you stole from me. So now you're labeled a thief in my mind for forever. We don't really forgive. Or you know what? You committed adultery. So you know what? You're an adulterer. Or you know what? You committed murder. You're a murderer. Right? We never fully reached that point. And I think that hurts as individuals, but it hurts the community as a whole, where we're able to do something great because you always carry that shame and your head is low instead of being able to raise your head up.
Yeah. Man. Pass the road.
Yeah.
Dude, that's some good stuff right there. Wow. Mm-hmm. Man. You met Jamie, you said, at
it was Camp Sunshine.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so how long after that was it before you even got? Well, let me ask y'all both this, because your spouses are white.
Mm-hmm.
Was that any kind of trouble for you?
Just in the cooking department. I ain't gonna lie. The cooking was rough in the beginning. Man, I ain't gonna lie. And I hate to be kind of stereotypical, but the flavors and the seasoning was lacking. That was probably the biggest thing. Was the first time she boiled chicken, I was like, what is going on? That ain't cooked. I don't know what that is. That was probably the biggest
issue, I guess.
That was the biggest issue. I mean, there's cultural differences, but as far as issue, that was probably the biggest one.
I feel like that my wife was more of my healer.
Mm-hmm.
And why I say that she was more of my healer, because she brought more of light to my life. Let me know that there's more to life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because just growing up in a black household, you stuck. Well, not all black households.
But
just growing up the way that I grew up, I just felt like that I was stuck. And when I first moved here to Seminole, I just thought, okay, I could get me a job at Walmart, or I could get me a job at the city of Seminole, and there's nothing wrong with those jobs. And I told her I would be just fine. And she was like, Andre, God wants more for your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's what, more of a healer that she was, because she got me out of that poverty mentality that I had. And she's continually helping me get out of that. Helping me on my speech and on my grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Because growing up, it's crazy because Ro has proper English.
Shut up. No,
I have proper / hood and Birmingham English. So I have Southern and Northerner. When you mix all of that, that English is not proper. So she's helping me on my grammar. She's the Lord sent her my way to help helped with my mindset on a lot of things. So I say like she has been a big blessing for my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely would say that. My wife is, I would say, my redeemer. If I could use one word for her, is bought me back. A lot of things where I don't know if I would ever have grown, ever progressed without her. To change my mindset, but to be loving and kind and patient through all of my flaws, all of my stupidity, and just loving me and believing that I could change, that I would change, that it may not be today, but tomorrow. And just, I would say that's how God looks at us. That's why he's so merciful, and he doesn't take us out like that. It's because he goes, I love them, and I know that they until they have no more breath, they can change. And that's how she is to me. And we get to grow together, laugh. And I'll say the first couple of years were rough, but every day gets better and better. And the more I learn, she's taught me to guard myself more, taught me that, you know what, that's probably not a good relationship right there. That's probably, that's probably, you probably don't need to be talking to her, because you can get caught up into some mess, or you can catch feelings over here, or this right here is not proper. And because I never seen it, I'm like, I can be friends with whoever I want. But what you start to realize is the dangers there. And she's like looking out for your best interest. You think it's jealousy, which she would have every right. But start to change your mindset. Yeah. So that as you change your mindset, you can teach proper to your children. So my sons don't have to go through the drama I went through. Right. And so I can model what a man is supposed to look like to my little girl. So as you start to get this shift and this twist, because you have a mate that's helping you get into alignment. So I would say that's probably,
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's some good stuff right there. Yeah, you better say that after you said your wife.
No, she can cook now. After about almost 10 years, she can definitely cook. But in the beginning, she'll tell you it was rough.
Yeah, bro, digging up. Okay, Ro. Okay, calm it down.
Let's see if she watches this.
No, man. So why Seminole? Why move to Seminole? You're in Tulsa. You're from a big city.
God told me to move here. Simply put.
Yeah.
Came to his wedding. God told me I was supposed to move here. A couple months later, we moved here.
Same with you, I guess?
Oh, shoot, no. It wasn't the same for me. It was not the same for me. Jamie said, hey, won't you come check out, because I was still living with Ro. I was heading off to Camp Sunshine for the second year. And Jamie said, come check out Texas. I'm thinking Dallas. I'm thinking,
Houston.
But I always knew the way she talked. I knew it had to be something small. But I got off the airport in Midland, and man, going to church. It was at night when she came and picked me up from the airport.
Of course, that's the best way to get you here, right? Nighttime.
And I went to sleep at my brother-in-law in them house. And that morning, we woke up and we went to church. Man, and in my head, I'm thinking, oh, no, sir. But right after that, I was thinking, what was next in my life? And once I came here and visit, Brandon and Amy Price told me, and I never met these people, never seen them a day in my life, and they offered me a job. And I just know, I said, okay, I'm about to give it a shot. And can I tell you it was all glory? Oh no, it was not all glory. I mean, I probably rebuked my wife probably like every single day. Because,
well, man, growing up.
Yeah.
And of course, just with blacks.
Yes.
And I don't know if you had Mexicans there. Or,
yes, I did.
I didn't have no. It wasn't no Mexicans in Detroit for real.
I had him in Alabama.
And then coming to the community, like Seminole.
When I came to Seminole and I seen the Spanish community as big as it is and as prosper, it made me happy. Because just coming from Detroit, you didn't see that many. There were some kind of down by the river. They had their own community over there.
Yeah.
And down in Alabama, yeah, I went to school with a good bit of them, played football with a good bit of them, but they had their own community. Well, not own community, but they had a certain area that they waited right there on the corner for work every single day. And so a part of my heart always felt like, man, like why they can't be like other people, why they can't get the jobs like other people. And just to come down here and I see the success still to this day, like I love it. I love it, because it's like the brown community is doing something. So it's like I love it. I love it. It was definitely a big culture shock.
Yeah, yeah.
A big culture shock.
What about for you? Same.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I guess I didn't notice that as much. When I looked up the statistics before I moved here, and I noticed that it was 1% black, I was like, 1%? Like, I mean, like, so when I move here, we gonna be 2%?
Yeah.
Cool. But all I knew was, if this is where you want me, God, then this is where I'll be. I didn't know how it was going to happen because when car had broke down before I moved out here. So I moved out here without a car and I was just walking everywhere. And then Johnny Powers, when Esther moved down here, seeing her walking, he was like, what are you doing? And he loaned us his van for a good long time. But I just knew that it was different. When I first came here, had a bunch of people ask me, are you from Seagraves? Are you from Seagraves? I had to ask Andre. I was like, why are they asking me to see Graves, bro? I'm like, this is a little suspect. I don't know what's going on, right? And he's like, no, that's Seagraves. That's a city over here. I was like, why? Is there a lot of black people that live there? Because I ain't seen, I hadn't seen anybody black besides Andre. I mean, like, when I say nobody, I ain't seen nobody that was black. And that wasn't something that bothered me. I just realized that it's going to be different. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a little different. But if I hadn't spent that time in Tulsa, I don't know if I would have been able to cope with all the different cultures.
Yeah.
In the German community, I mean, for a while there, the kids were just staring at me at Walmart. And it was like creepy stares. Like, you're just staring. But what I realized is it's just a culture shock. It's different.
Yeah.
And I just didn't understand in the beginning, but it was just a culture. It's just different cultures. It's like when I see somebody riding a horse, that's normal. But when my family first came down here, they're riding horses on the side of the road. I'm like, yeah, that's normal. I don't even think about it anymore. I'm like, yeah, they got horses. There's cows right over here. Yeah, yep, old pump jack. Yeah, we're good.
Or carrying caskets on a John Deere tractor.
Nah, I have not seen that. Now that would throw me off. And that's still,
they do that, hardcore.
I have not seen that, but there are some differences that you start to grow and you start to see and you start to notice and. But I love variety. Mm-hmm. So, and everybody has been so warm and embracing. I mean, I've had some instances where things were not as warm and friendly, but it's mostly because you're an outsider. Mm-hmm. And once people get to know you, then it's no big deal.
Yeah. Have you guys ever dealt with any kind of racism growing up?
Yeah, it's like where to begin.
Corner store. In Detroit, you go into the corner store and you have the Arab community that owns a lot of them, and they follow you around the store.
Which is more in the urban.
Yeah, and they say, "Hurry up and buy." Right? Are you buying or get out? And they're watching you, but for good reason. Because a lot of people steal in Detroit. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense, but when you don't understand it, you're just like, well, I'm not going to steal anything from you. Now, granted, we've all been there. Like I said, I was trying to steal at an early age, so I do understand it. I would say that when I first moved to Seminole, me and Esther were driving, and they pulled Esther out of the car to make sure that she was okay. This is normally how I dress most of the time.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Kidnapping somebody like that? I mean, what's going on? Yeah. Right? Like I'm holding her hostage in the front seat. Right. Yeah. Probably not, but to make sure she was okay. And you know what? I'd rather that than me be a kidnapper and something would have happened, right? So I did, but they asked her like 4 times, "Are you sure you're okay? Blink if you're not okay." Like, okay. I was pulled over and cops wanted to search the vehicle. I let them search it, because it was going to be a big deal, and let them search it because they asked me where I was coming from so late. Are you supposed to be out so late? And the partner was cool, but the main guy was not, and I complied and just went on. And you experienced some of that. When I was at Texas Roadhouse, I had a lady ask me if I had a noose in my back pocket. Like, ignorant things like that. And I'm waiting their table. I'm like, and my personality, I'm like, no, do you? Who just carries one around? Like, and just laughed it off. It didn't hurt. Sometimes I go, God, their ignorance, forgive them for their ignorance. I've had some things that have been said that have been, I go, it doesn't matter. It's just ignorance. Just shake it off. No big deal. Does it exist in the world? Yeah. Does it happen? Yeah.
I had a lot of it too. Instances just being in Columbus, Georgia, and being in Seminole, same thing happened. But let's just say the Seminole. So everybody's dream is to have a big house one day. And so what I love to do, especially still to this day, is to leave Hobbs and drive up on the hill. The same place everybody calls Snob Hill.
Oh, yeah.
And this is when I have my Charger, windows all tinted out, which I got from Casey Powers. Got the Charger from Casey Powers, but I just put, and they already had the dark windows. I just put 22-inch rims on there. And so I'm parked up there where Dr. Parkey and them live at, just looking at all them big houses and stuff up there. And so you have a cop that just zoomed right past me, hit the roundabout, and parked right in front of me. And I said, yes, sir. Can I help you? And then he said, yeah, we got a call about some break-ins that's been happening in this area. I said, oh, I'm sorry. And then he said, well, your car kind of meets the the description of the break-ins. He was like, and they said it was 4 black males that was breaking in. That's what they say.
Wow, that was all the black people in Seminole.
Yeah, he said that it was 4 black males that was breaking into houses around here. And I said, and I rolled down all my windows. I said, well, sir, there's a car seat right here, and there's a car seat right here. We can't steal nothing in this car, sir. And then he was like, well, can I? He was like, I understand, sir. Well, can I still see your license and registration? So when you can't get nothing on me because of that, you still want to run my tags and run my license to try to see if you can find something to have an excuse to lock me up. Mm-hmm. That's wrong.
Yeah. And
same instance, we in Columbus, Georgia. Me and Jamie, we off that day, and we had to get something for our car that we had while we were in Georgia. And I'm in the parts store, and I'm walking up to the counter, and there's an older white gentleman that's standing right there that he doesn't work in. I guess he's a familiar customer that always come in. And I'm walking up and I said, hey, sir, do y'all have this part? And the guy started laughing and I'm looking at him. And he was like, man, he said, everything looks good from your shoulders and below. Like, what is that supposed to mean? I said, what are you trying to say? He was like, that dark skin of yours.
Oh, man.
So I started laughing, and the guys behind the counter said, don't listen to him. And I went out to tell Jamie, I said, babe, this is some of the stuff that I have to deal with. And I told her, and she was like, what guy? It really didn't hit my wife until we just went to Columbus. We went to Oklahoma City. Like Jamie understood everything that I went through, but just to actually, it hit her in her face. I want to say, but we sitting on the couch with my buddy John in Oklahoma City, and he's telling us the story that they just moved into because he's a worship pastor in Oklahoma City. They moved into a really nice area, really nice gated area in Oklahoma City. And He went out going to get snacks and stuff, movie night with the family. And so he's the last one in the house, or they were already in the house. And once he sat in the house and they got the movie and stuff playing, they hear boom, 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 boom on the front door. They like, what's going on? They just moved into this area. And he opened up the front door. Oh, normal black person gonna say, who is it? Mm-hmm. And so they said Oklahoma City. No, because he's staying Admin or Edmond. I think. Yeah, Admin, Oklahoma. They said Admin Police Department. And so he hurried up and opened up the door. And he said they got shotguns and everything pointed right at his face. Everybody at the car and stuff with their gun and stuff pointing, saying that they somebody called the police saying that they heard a gunshot from that house. What is that supposed to mean? I got another buddy, good friend of mine too, Steve Jameson, and live in Oklahoma City too. If the statistics, you really don't see that many black people working in the oil field. You just don't, because black people don't want to be around that work. You in the hot heat. You know they don't want to be around that, and so he started working. He's working for One Oak in Oklahoma City. And he said when he first got out there, normally, if you're a company man, you can run anybody off. But he's first time out there. So he's getting out there on location to get the job and stuff sorted. The backhoe operator sitting out there opened up, his hatch on his backhoe. Older white guy and said, he was like, look, y'all, we got a nigger out here now. Just going out there, like, it's just, people, I haven't experienced, and I prayed I never experience more hands-on, but words are more hands-on to me too. So, it's still going on to this day, and it hurts, man. Yeah. I can't sit here and say that it don't hurt, because I was raised by my mom, and my mom, she always said, you are only what you respond to. Mm-hmm. And I lived that out, but when you have people that still have anger and want to express these things to you, you can only brush it off so much.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, man, dang. No, that's tough. Mm-hmm. And I've never had to deal with any of that. I don't really know if any other family have ever had to deal with that, and it's just, it sucks that it's going on for sure. It hurts, and to hear stuff that y'all you have to go through, it should never be like that at all. But I think you said it. You see, people say, no, I don't see color. I see hearts. But no, just like you said, no, you see color.
No, you stick a white person up and go up to Detroit. Oh, you gonna see some color.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the point that everybody say, I don't see color. I see people equal. But at the end of the day, God sees color. God knew what he was doing when he created color.
I think you want to see color, and you want to equally value and appreciate the differences. It's like we talked about our favorite colors, right? I said different sides of the color spectrum, and I like them for different reasons. And I think it's more so that way, where you can value a different culture, and you can value a different type of people. It's like Haiti and Dominican Republic, they share an island, but they're totally different people. They can tell each other apart, even though they live in the same climate for sun and everything. They know the difference. And I think you can know the difference and appreciate the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Got some questions here I'd like to ask.
Okay.
What are your thoughts? And I don't know if you know who Candace Owen is, and the Hodge twins.
No, both.
What are your thoughts or opinions on black conservative people like Candace Owens or the Hodge twins that the black community often criticize?
You want to go first?
I just actually started listening to Candace a little bit. I get some of her points.
Yeah.
And I agree on a lot of things that she is saying. And that's where that black dividers come in. Because you have some black hurts. You know, a lot of people that I was watching her speak to, they are speaking in hurt. And she's speaking in
Facts.
in facts. You know, and so when you get hurt and facts mixed up, then, you know, there's never going to be a balance in it. So I agree on some of the things that she's saying, and some of the things she has to realize that, okay, if you haven't walked that mile, then, you know, it's kind of hard to speak about it.
I'll say this is, most of the time what people will say is, well, you're an Uncle Tom, you're this or you're that.
Yeah.
We take our own experiences and we try to make them law versus looking at the facts, statistics, right? Looking at actually what does, when you're talking in a corporate, then you have to look at the facts. Because each individual experience is going to be different. Now, if we're talking about an anecdotal experience, you've had an experience, I had an experience. But when we look at facts, we have to judge those facts. And most of the time, people don't want to judge the facts. They want to judge by emotion.
Yes.
So, and when you're talking to people that are of lower education, and when I say that, I don't mean college education, but they don't read books, they haven't educated themselves on the subject, then the only thing they have is raw emotion about something. And that raw emotion, your feelings will lie to you. Your emotions, you'll make something that's not. You will take something and make something like racist. I can say something to the extent of, I thought all Mexicans like sour cream or salsa. And you'll go, oh, he's a racist. Well, that doesn't mean that it's racist. It's racial, and it may be a stereotype, but that doesn't mean that it's racist.
Yeah.
And I think we take to a point where we want to find something where it's not. So we will, as a community, black people actually used to be, black people are still more conservative than they are liberal. You'll find that things like gay marriage, black people have a stance on it and has had a stance more so against it than for it. The more conservative, the nuclear family. You find those things to be true, but what happens is most black people are afraid of being ostracized by speaking up.
Yes.
So what you find is even in our celebrities, like Denzel Washington, he's been married to his wife for forever. And we applaud those things and we're happy about those things. So which means that we receive them well, and that's a part of our belief system. But in the same token, it is more popular or louder to say, hey, man, get 17 girls, be like this rapper here. But what you don't see is like Jay-Z may talk about flipping bricks and this and that, but he don't flip bricks. Right. So we glorify the most negative of our culture, of our people. We don't say, hey, man, I'm glad you're a lawyer. You're a doctor. I'm glad you're doing something with your life. We say, hey, man, you made it out. So help the homie out. Yeah. Right. Now it's your responsibility to not teach me, but feed me. And that mentality didn't come in until after the 1960s. So that was a mentality that happened when welfare was instituted in order to get the nuclear family to break down, where black people actually had the lowest divorce rate, and then you have people that moved away from that. So when black conservatives say stuff like that, it's like, but that's not my reality. It's like, well, but that's the truth, and this is the facts, but that's not what I live today. You don't know my life. My feelings over facts. And that's a dangerous place to get into. And then I also think people are trying to be like Candace Owen, the Hodge twins, and you have some of the others, and what they do is try to be a counterbalance for on the political side, more so just the political to the imbalance, that's the impropriety that's over on the liberal side of things. And so now you're also working extra hard to try to give a different viewpoint and opinion, because this one is so known and well known and popular.
Yeah. That's good. What are your thoughts when people make it a political debate?
I try not to get into it. I don't like, when people debate about political wise or religion. I try not to get in the middle of none of that because I don't know too much of it.
Yeah.
So I try not to get in the middle of it to try to have a point about it. So.
And I'm on the opposite end, I guess, is I like to see that because I do think as we look at, I think religion and politics go like this. And everybody wants to separate them, but they do go like this because you look at the book of Judges, you look at Joshua, you look at Kings, you look at Chronicles, and it talks about the rulers, and it talks about how this king made the people to sin, or this one made them to righteousness, and it talks about how those things happen in the Bible. So now, if you're talking about more so politicizing ethnicity and racism and things like that, I think every 4 years, in my opinion, you start to see this race thing come up, and it becomes important, and it becomes a tool to hey, vote for me on the left and the right, where it becomes a tool, vote for me, and it's some of the issues that I see as I go. Well, you can fix. On a level, you don't need it fixed on a federal level, because that's always when we want to talk about it is on a federal level. I don't see you doing it on a local level where you can fix your own community. Maybe you can't fix racism in Kentucky, but if you're the governor of Texas or Massachusetts or whatever, you can fix it there. That's your domain in your region of responsibility. So take the bull by the horn and fix it. Now, and then you can take it and go, hey, you know what? I need federal aid or federal funding, or I need it at a higher level. Then I'm going to petition to get that done. Versus when I think most people, what they do is they don't know who their mayor is, who's their local governing, who their state senators are. They don't know who's their state representatives are. And they also don't go vote on different bills. They don't know what's coming up on the docket. So when they do, what they're doing is they're regurgitating popular talking points that validate their emotions versus looking at the actual facts.
Some good stuff right there. Wow, yeah. What do you respond or thoughts when people bring up black on black crime?
Depends on when they bring it up. Yeah. I'm just gonna be honest. Depends on when they bring it up.
Because you think of it now, with all the racism, everything that's going on. George Floyd, and you have I don't know if you've heard about the hangings now. There's hangings in California, here in Texas. People say, okay, Black Lives Matter, and there's like, well, if Black Lives Matter, why is there black on black crime then?
I'll say this. I think that. One, let's start with facts and statistics. Like, let's go with police brutality first. Last year in 2019, I believe it was 9 black men in the U.S. that were unarmed were victims of police brutality. 9. There's 350 million Americans. I'm not saying that that's not a problem, but when it ranks on my problem scale, it doesn't rank. I'm not saying police brutality is not a problem, but when we're talking about unarmed, then I go, you have a couple bad apples. I can't say the whole system is broken. When I look at the statistics from the Department of Justice, when I look at the FBI statistics, now when we go white, I believe it was 17 or 12, somewhere in there, where it's a very small sliver, but we're seeing it. So I don't think it's this overarching problem. But when we start to look at sentencing, I do think there is a larger discrepancy between minorities being sentenced for longer versus not. And but that's not a law enforcement problem. That's a judicial problem of having judges. I think when people bring up black on black crime, it is the largest problem. Like white on white crime, you kill the people that's around, right? Most people aren't. I'm not going to drive 14 hours to go break in somebody's house. That's probably not going to happen. So what's more likely going to happen is I'm going to do it around the people that I'm around. That's normally how it works, but I don't think that negates when you're having a conversation about something else. So if I say, hey man, your shirt is terrible today. I don't think you need to go, well, what about my pants? Well, we're having a conversation about your shirt, so why are we changing topics? So I do think we have to deal in the facts, but we also have to we have to deal with the situation at hand and address it. I do think that there's more police brutality that does go on than that's shown on the statistic, but I don't think it's 1,000 times or 100,000 times more than what the statistics show.
Right, and then you got to think about when they say black on black crime too. Majority of black on black crime is done in a big major city, and when you have nothing but your own race that's there, who else can you kill? I'm not justifying it, but only person that you could kill is your brother that's right in front of you. And so, like, this is things that's been going on for years,
Since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
But my thing is, like, why label it black on black crime? Like, why can't it just be crime?
Because looking at the Netflix thing that you were talking about, black folk were labeled as gangsters, and so that's still to this day.
Yeah.
When you look at a rap video, first thing that somebody will say, man, turn that gangster music down. It's already pre-labeled. So like,
yeah, which we've kind of helped perpetuate because.
Oh yes, all day long.
When you don't help yourself, a good example is so it's labeled that way because we go, well, that's white on black crime. If we just say this is crime, this is murder.
Exactly.
If we remove those labels as a whole, then that's what you do. But when you want to push a narrative, that's what you do. When it's that's like good. If I say exactly I was bit by a snake, do I need to say that it was a green or purple snake? I don't care. I was bit by a snake, right? Now, if you need description so that you can tell me, was it a rattlesnake? Because you need to give anti-venom so I can solve this. Now, if I'm describing who broke into my house, I may say he was a white male, 6'4", weighing 496 pounds ish. I'm going to describe he was wearing this shirt. I'm going to give as much detail. Now, if I'm trying not to be racist, then I would describe everything but his race. He was kind of tall and like, okay, like, was it Shaq who broke into your house? I mean, you as you start to, but when it's a matter of the heart, the labels is a way to cover it or to not sound racist sometimes. And either side of the argument is what you're really trying to do is perpetuate this stereotype. Yeah. You're trying to push your own agenda and narrative and make it fit this story.
No, that's good, man. I liked how you explained all that. That's perfect. That's awesome. And you even brought it up too about black people are labeled as thugs and criminals. How do you raise your kids? How do I word this? To make sure like they're not labeling, let's say a Mexican kid is, his dad's probably a drug dealer, or a drunk, or drugs, something like. How do you train and raise your kids the right way?
Man, I really believe that is understanding culture. Presenting your kids around different cultures, and because if they don't get it from you, they go get it in school. Yeah. So stereotyping is going to be around all for the rest of our life. But I really just believe that culture is the key. Like inviting not just only one race over to your house, inviting all, like, man, if you gonna come over to my house, everybody coming over to the house. And that's what I believe, that's gonna open up our kids' eyes and just saying, man, mommy and daddy used to have black, white, Spanish, Puerto Rican all over to the house that, and there was no shame in their game. It wasn't just all black folk. Like, I'm thankful my mom took us out of Detroit, because I wouldn't know no other race. Yeah. Now, if I had a party at the house, I want everybody to come over. It's not just a certain race or certain, I have to have everybody over.
I think along those lines, you expose them and you teach them and you show them culture. You teach people to respect everybody, love them, for who they are, and also if you don't want to be labeled a gangster, right? Don't look like a gangster, and that does not mean what. Like back in the 1920s, they wore zoot suits, and so if you dress like this, then you're going to be associated. If I put a cowboy hat on and some boots with spurs, and I put on some chaps, you're going to assume that about me, right? Those are the things that we all have our assumptions.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, even the term of a sheep or a wolf in sheep's clothing. When you're wearing that clothing, that's what you're going to be treated like, where you're going to be looked at immediately. It does not mean that it is true, but we can't and that does not mean you need to change who you are. But what I mean is, if for let's just say the stereotype. Let's go with this stereotype. I see a Arab man. He has a turban on. He has his traditional garbs on. He has a backpack. We're getting ready to get on a plane. He throws his backpack down in the seat and runs off. What's the first thing that comes into your mind? Right? I'll tell you what comes into my mind, right? First thing I might go, did that dude just throw a bomb? Right? Because of 9/11. Because of that. What if he realized, I forgot my kid. I forgot this. You don't know the situation, but we look at it from that standpoint and that point of view because of what we've been exposed to.
Yes.
So even when you're looking, but it is our job. We can't change immediate perception per se, but it's our job to go find out more, right? It's not to judge, because prejudice is going to be in each and every one of us. You have a preference. You might like redheads with green eyes. I don't know what color your wife's eyes is, but you know, right? But you're going to have a preference. And you're going to judge before you know. You can judge somebody before you know, but now it's your responsibility to go find out more about them, to see if your initial judgments was true. It's like when you have a first take review of tech, and then you use it for a period of time, and your point of view may have changed. And I think when you teach your kids that, it's okay to have an immediate thought, but not to let that be the thing that defines it.
Yeah. Man.
And that's what I was telling Jamie the other day. I said, man, babe, what if our first reaction with people was love? Instead of just like, oh man, Ro can be this kind of person. Or, if our first response was love, getting to know this person without a prejudgment.
I would love that if we could ever get that way. I don't know if we can. I think about the story about Peter when he separated himself from the Gentiles because of the fear of what the Jews would say. And he had just preached and got thousands of people saved. He walked with Jesus. And I don't know if I can do better than that. Right? I didn't walk with Jesus in that regard. I didn't preach and get thousands. I don't know if that's something that I can arrive to that point, but I know that I may not be able to change my first thought, but I can capture that second.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, that's good. You're talking about Jesus. Do you believe that this situation we're in now is dividing the church?
100%.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Explain.
So I think what you're saying to some regard is white guilt is what they're calling it.
Yeah.
And then you're starting to see black more pushing that without the facts and without pushing Christ, that we're so focused on how we've been done wrong and not so much on healing and what Jesus came to do with his mission. I feel like you have a lot of white people that are like, I didn't do anything. Why am I being blamed with this? And why do I have responsibility? And then you also have a lot of black people that are starting to go, well, I didn't see you put the black square up. I didn't see you do, and watching and go, wait, I remember this one time you said, what did you mean by that? Or you posted and you called that guy a monkey. You must not like black people. Maybe he just meant that one guy is a monkey. Or I think you're seeing that in the church, and you're seeing the post of all lives matter and Black Lives Matter, and you're starting to see this divide of people getting away from Jesus being the center. And Jesus, I'm not saying that this is not an issue, but going, Jesus solves the problem versus going, as a man, going, you need to pay penance for all white people. You can't be the spokesperson for all white people. You weren't elected to be the spokesperson for all white people. I'm not elected to be the spokesperson for all Black people. The only thing I can do is take personal responsibility for my actions and my household, and then love people. And what I'm seeing is the church is so divided on the issue of that it's becoming almost the cancel culture is even being invited in the church, like this okay symbol that they're saying is white power, which is not even the truth. If you do the research, it's not anywhere in there. It's a hoax. But what you see is the church is jumping kind of on the bandwagon, if you will, because they want to do the right thing.
Right.
However, not understanding that the church creates the culture, not the culture creating the church. All you got to do is love people in your church, and when you see injustice, correct it.
Yes.
Stop anything else. Just when you see injustice, correct it. That's it. We don't. Your job is not to go out there and to necessarily march and to do this. It's to vote according to the Bible, not according to anything else. It's vote according to the Bible. Advocate change for the better. It's to love each other. You've never owned a slave. I've never been a slave. There's people that went through Jim Crow and the civil rights. I did not. It's to just love each other and to make sure that we're united, and stop looking at social media for everybody's post and reading into everything. Because I see that with the churches. And I see the members of churches and what they're posting. And I see pastors on a rant about how white people did me wrong this time, that time. And how I didn't know about my own white privilege and white guilt, and feeling this pressure of guilt on one side. And then on the other side, this pressure to feel oppressed. I don't feel oppressed. I don't need to feel oppressed. I don't need anyone to tell me that I'm oppressed. Satan does enough of that, okay? I don't need someone else, and I don't need you to feel guilty for something you're not accountable for.
Man, I think, you touched every last bit of it, because social media, and that, that's what can cripple us to this day. Social media is having a big part to do with the dividance, and I just feel like everybody is trying to get their point out. And yes, all the facts and everything is stated. Now, I just feel like you have to live up to it. It's not just, okay, we having this press conference, we having this one. Man, live up, own up to it. There's hurt in cities that's out there. Let's live up to it. It's not, okay, let me just confront the problem and move on with it. That's where divide is, and that's where they get so upset with the government. It's because you state all of these facts, and this is what Black people are saying. You stating all of these facts, but you're not living up to it. Like, if it really is a problem, speaking up is, let me get out there and fix the hurt.
Fix it.
That's what the Black community is saying. It's like, get out there and fix it. Don't just say, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry that you had to deal with this. Step up and fix it. That's what I think, And the Black community is seeing, okay, they saying all of this. They trying to help us. But you not, once this is all going to be swept underneath the rug. And it's going to be another day. And you go forget all about what the protest and everything was all about. That's where the dividers take place. Is they want to see actions.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
It starts with one. Just be the change. It's the biggest problem facing the Black community is fatherless homes.
Oh yeah.
That's the biggest. You want to change the Black community, but help keep the fathers in the home. Stay. Be a man.
Mentor.
But be a man. Stay. Even if it's hard, stay. Be that if you want to change. I would say that more marriage conferences, less hype, less stage design, less flash, more marriage counseling, more marriage conferences, more children's conferences, more outreach, more out into the community. As a church, I don't care what the world is doing, but as a church, let's go out there and let's change this world. Mm-hmm. Let's go and be love, be Jesus, and go reach people. You're not perfect, but let's go reach in our imperfection and go, I have someone who is perfect. And if he can use me, he can use you. Yes, I'm broken. I'm cracked. I got holes. I have everything like that. But if he can use me, because it's the living water in me that's going to go out there, then guess what? He can use anybody and go, you know what? That's what we need. We're going to go out there and unite it. I'm going to stand with you. I don't have to agree with you. We can disagree on issues, but the military has this best, and the best I've ever seen it is you have the branches, you have the Army, the Marines, the Navy, and guess what? They fight among each other as brothers, right? But when it comes wartime, battle time, they have each other's back. At the end of the day, I don't care if you're Catholic, Baptist, non-denominational, stop the fighting. Stop. We can have our differences, but let's find where we agree. Let's address these issues head on as believers. I don't care if you vote left, right, or center. Jesus is who we follow, so that's how you address it. As a church, you go love. Mm-hmm. Love covers a multitude of sin, and without that, there's nothing else.
Man, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I think actions, man. Yeah. I think that's what people are out there rioting, about and like tearing up the cities, which I don't agree with. There's a right way to do it.
Okay, so do you believe in the protesting?
Yes, I do, absolutely.
I believe in the freedom to protest. Yes. I don't necessarily agree with what the protests are right now, but I do agree with the freedom to protest. 100%. The looting and the rioting is wrong.
Yes.
So how do you feel? And Kaepernick did this last year, or no, it was
2 years.
2 years.
2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on that when he did that?
To tell you the truth, I was for him. By him saluting during the national anthem.
Oh, kneeling?
Well, kneeling. Yeah, kneeling, my bad. Kneeling during it. To me, there's always a better way. But when is a better time? And people say, there's a right time and there's a right time to do things. I agree with that. But when would people speak up? When would you hear something? So I agree. To me, I was all down with them. Because we're talking about an interracial guy. We're talking about a half black, half white guy. Mm-hmm. And him speaking up in the community. And now people are saying, man, he did the right thing now.
Now they're realizing.
Right.
So I have, it's kind of complex for me. I would agree with his right. I would not kneel during the national anthem because of honor to the country. I feel like we live in the greatest country on earth, number one. Number two, for as far as on the NFL level, I think that when... Oh my God, why did I just forget? Tim Tebow did it. They ostracized him. They called it Tim Tebow, right? So I don't think that was any different than what they did to Colin Kaepernick.
Yes.
I think the response was the same for very different sides of the platform. One you would say would more be right-leaning politically, and one would be left-leaning politically. I think the NFL chose their response the way that they did, that it affects their game. It's their company, essentially. And if it causes harm to their company profits, then that's what they're going to do. I think they both, as far as quarterback skills, were probably about the same. Quarterback skills, in my opinion, neither one of them were, in my opinion, were the top tier quarterback where you're going, this guy is Super Bowl status or anything like that. I don't watch that much football, but But far as quality, I would say they're both mid tier. weren't the worst, weren't the best. They were ostracized in the same way. I will say this: it cost Tim Tebow money. It did not cost Colin Kaepernick money. He got a big Nike deal. See, the difference was one actually stood for what he believed in, and it cost him. Another one stood for what he believed in, and it made him money. I'm not saying he did it to make money. I'm just telling you the fact is he made money off of it. I'm telling you Tebow did not. Same response. So when I judge, and that was just a few years before. So you're talking the same commissioners. When you're judging things, I'm judging it on an equal playing field. Of the NFL response was pretty much the same. It was not a racial thing. It wasn't even a political thing. It was a you're interfering with my money thing. So the response was accurate. And now if Colin wants to kneel for the national anthem, that's fine. I disagree with it, but I think that's his right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, do I believe you want to advocate? I think there's a different place and a different time. That's my opinion. But I also know that at some point in time, you have to take a stand. And you take a stand for what you believe, regardless if I disagree with your belief system. I agree with your right to be able to do so.
I just feel like, I feel like that was his platform.
Tim Tebow felt the same way.
Yeah, and so that's where I feel like if there was no other better place for him to do it than there, because that was his platform that was placed for him.
Right.
So, like that's these people that's out there, doing, out there protesting and stuff. That's the platform that they have at that time. And so, like, that's what I feel like for him, I don't knock him.
No, I disagree, but I can disagree with someone without having the whole cancellation. There's people that I disagree with, but I still may enjoy their movies, or I may enjoy. It's not a matter of if I completely disagree with on an issue, but if I completely disagree with your whole entire lifestyle, then may be a different point. I will say, far as here's the way I think change is you know what, you're tired of police brutality, then go put in 1,800 applications at a police station. All black applicants, people that look like you or whatever you think that should good content character, put that in. Now, if they don't hire any of them and they're hiring, then take it to the federal court and go, hey, this is discrimination. I have my proof. You will get change. And then if not, take it to the Supreme Court. Now, if the Supreme Court doesn't do it, if the federal court doesn't do anything, Supreme Court, then now I can go, yes, I agree. But you have to start creating change instead of going, change starts bottom up, not top down. I'm not waiting on the government to make changes for me. I'm going to create those changes myself. So I think that you can have people. So in the civil rights, what they did, they had doctors, they had lawyers, they had people of influence and power, minister. So they created some change and some validity to that. And I think that's one way that we can. But you see all these shootings. They're in the way that black people generally vote is Democratic. That's is Democrat.
Which the Minneapolis used to be different back in the day.
It did used to be different, almost always Republican.
Yes.
But you had Minneapolis, Seattle, Detroit, Chicago. You know what those cities all have in common? They're all ran by Democrats and have been for decades. So the people that you're mad at, that you're saying, like you're saying, Candace Owen, Hosh Winster, Uncle Tom, blah 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 blah. You're advocating for change, but voting the same. So that's backwards, right? So you're actually mad at yourself because you keep voting the same people in, and they're not making any changes for you. So you have to do something different. And that difference, I think, starts there rather than protesting. I think it's more action. Protesting is when in my opinion, is when you go, I've done everything I can do. Now I have to get the attention of the community at large. I have already applied. Now I'm at the appeal process, essentially. And I think that's the major way that you start to see those changes. But if you're not willing to sign up to be a cop, if you're not willing to sign up to be a judge, if you're not willing to change the community from the inside out, then what you're going to do is you're going to risk somebody coming in that may seem friendly but does not have your best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. It's real good.
And I could be different, because I feel like, when you had enough, and some of the times you don't have the opportunity to go apply for those jobs. You don't have the resources to go do it, or any of the other things that you were saying. And so your best outreach could be your voice.
Absolutely.
And so I just feel like, some of the people that's out there, that's protesting, that's all that they have is their voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because it takes, and we know it hands down, it takes finances to go get a job.
True.
You're not going to walk from here all the way to Hobbs to go get no job. That's going to be a different
I mean, you could. That'd be rough.
You can, but it'd be rough every single day you get that job.
But if you're uncomfortable enough, then you'll go do it for the change.
Yeah, but that's gonna be a big change. Though.
It's gonna be a big change. but it depends on how bad you want it. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So a lot of people, it depends on what ball game that you are in. Because I agree with you saying 100%. If that's that should be the last resort. I agree with that. But some of these people, they just feel like their resort is their mouth, it's their speech.
I agree. I agree with that. That it should be the last resort. I also think that we have to start to take our destinies in our own hands. That we have to go our stories.
Yeah.
Right. Like our stories. We did not grow up well. The different deciding factor is Jesus for sure.
Yes.
100% Jesus and the ability to take a risk and take a chance. Sometimes if you can't do it where you are, then you need to move. And then come back strong enough where you can go help. And we have a lot of strong leaders that can. Oprah, she has lots of money, lots of resources, lots of influence. We have Tyler Perry. We can name a list of people that did it. So that means that if they can do it, we can. And it doesn't mean that everyone can, but someone can. And we have to take a chance on ourselves, go apply for the police department. Go apply or train up. NFL is mostly black, and so is the NBA. Almost exclusively black now. And we've done well to do that, but we haven't done well to produce doctors and lawyers. The Asian community, the Indian community at large produce doctors and lawyers at a far greater rate because that's what they push. We produce, rap music is almost exclusively black, right? Almost exclusively. I mean, you got a couple white people, but that's almost a couple Latin people. But when you look at what you're promoting, that's what you're getting. So what you're putting in is what you're getting out of the machine. So I think as we start to grow and educate ourselves, you start to see people make those transitions. I think Jay-Z said it. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Right? His whole entire philosophy is he's the business. He's the brand. And I think as we start to believe in ourselves and get some education and some training, I think that's the big difference is education in Jesus. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I love how y'all both have, just different perspectives on this. I love it. One of the things that I'll ask too, and I don't know if you heard the last episode with Corey Curry, but what I asked him was, do you believe like pretty much is this country white privilege?
No.
In a way, I believe, yes, sir.
And explain to me like why you believe that.
The opportunity wise, because even way back in the day, how slave owners, they passed down things to their kids. And slaves were not passed down, they were dead or they were locked up. They were in prisons. And so the opportunity of having something passed down generation to generation helped out the white generation compared to helping the black generation. And even going out there to get a loan for different things. Like, I was just trying to trade in Jamie's car the other day. We just called up to the car dealership. And then I told him I'm from Seminole, Texas and stuff. And she, like, this lady, she's like profiling me hardcore. She was like, are you German? I said, no, ma'am. She was like, well, do you have this amount of money to put down? I said, my name is, then she started asking, she said, what is your name? I said, it's Andre Campbell. And then she was like, well, do you even have enough money to put down? Mm-hmm. Like right away, like it's already profiled, before, you even went in there I hung the phone up. Because if you go ask me all of these questions and profile me already, I'm not even go, try to take none of your business. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of, I don't want to say that all white people are like it, but majority of it, like, were you taught how to save money?
No.
Were you taught how to get credit?
No.
Majority of the white community is taught that as kids.
Yes, and this is where I would say no. I don't believe that this country is white privilege. It's because couple different reasons. Is if you go to different parts of the world. You go more specifically, you go to China, you go to places where it's a class system where when you're born into something, it is very, very, very hard to escape it. In the U.S., that's not the case. You can't. Do I agree? Do I agree that some white people had a head start because of slavery and Jim Crow? Absolutely. As a people, yes, I would absolutely say that. Would I say that white people with other white people get benefit of the doubt? Yes. Well, do I think it has to do with skin color? Sometimes, but as when I look at the system is starting to be more and more corrected to being more even. Was the system built for black people? I do not agree that the system was built for us, because when the system was built, it was built against us. Now, can the system work for us? Absolutely. I would not say that because you're white, you get extra benefits that I don't get. So that would be privilege. I do think to some individuals that you are afforded an opportunity of benefit of doubt because of skin color. But I also would say that we get the same thing. But I don't want somebody to say, oh, well, because he's black, he may not have enough money. Or because he's black, we need to give him affirmative action because to me, that says I'm not smart enough to be equal to the white kid. When I look at it, I don't want a handout. All I want is a fair opportunity. I want the same opportunity. And I think we have that, because if we did not have the ability to do that, then we would not have had several different things. We wouldn't have black millionaires and billionaires. We wouldn't have had a black president, because white people make up over 60% of the population. Black people, if every black person voted for Barack Obama and no white people voted for him, guess what? He wouldn't have made it into office. It's impossible. The numbers don't lie. It's just impossible. So white people had to vote for him as well. So I don't think that it's just a skin thing. I think we live in a class system. Mm. So the people that you're talking about usually come from a higher economic social status. So that's where they're taught those things, because their parents were taught those things. Usually it comes from a two-parent home. Generally speaking, it's a two-parent home. That's the major deciding factor, is because look at Beyonce and Jay-Z kids. You think they don't know financial education? I guarantee you they're going to know financial education, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to learn those things because the family, that's an individual societal problem, but that's not a government problem. So when we're talking about white privilege, I look at it from a systemic government level. I don't think it's a problem. As a society, I think as a culture, we're crabs in a barrel because we were trained to hate each other. And where black people are the only community where we don't pool our resources
together. Yes.
We don't pool our resources to buy something, to do something, opposed to going, hey man, me and you, we're going to live together for 3 years, our family, and we're going to put this money together, and we're going to buy us a piece of land, and then we're going to buy us a building, and we're going to do that. We're taught to have our own. We're taught and by own. We even had songs like "Everything in My Mama's Name," right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's what we glorify and what we look to. So when you look at different, because if you look at the Hispanic community, they pull the resources. They have places together where they build together. The Arab community does the same thing. The Asian community, right? We have Chinatown. When you look at communities, you see that. But when you look at the Black community, what you see is ghettos. Because of the mindset. It's not that we have little. We may have little individually, but if we pull it together, we can have a lot. We're the largest minority in the country, and we spend more money on consumer goods than anything else. So Jordans, how much is a pair of Jordans? 120, 150 bucks?
200.
Okay, so who's the primary buyer of Jordan shoes? Black people, right? How many times have you seen a car that's worth more than somebody's house in their driveway? Black people and the oil field workers. That's real normal, right? That's normal. But when you're looking at it, and when you look at it, it's the things that we have learned and what we've been taught. So the 3 things to raise out of poverty that you need to do in America, not everywhere in the world, but in America, is finish school, right? Don't have any children outside of marriage until you're married, and work. Those are the 3 things you do, and you will raise up out of poverty. No one has, as a society, has said because you are Black, you can't make $1 million. You can't make $1 billion. No one has done that. We just, as a culture, we feel like we can't. We have some internal healing that we have to do as a people that keeps us down. It's our mindsets that keep us down in thinking that we have an enemy, like the white man is suppressing us. Does it happen on an individual level? Absolutely. Are there racist judges? Absolutely. Are there individuals? Yes, but we have power when we choose to vote, when we choose to spend our dollars, how we spend our money, and when you create your own. How many Black-owned businesses that were created in Detroit, and first thing we do is, hey man, can you hook me up? Instead of going, I'm paying you full price. But we'll go into Walmart and pay full price, but I want to come and or negotiate you down. That's the mentality. Instead of saying, my brother, I'm paying you full price, and I want to go negotiate over here down. But that's our mindset. Or you got something clean. Now you feel like you got to watch out when you have something clean around your own people versus going, man, they're going to be happy for me.
And that's the difference again, which I agree with you 100%, because this is what my wife helped me break. And, it was all in the mindset. But you go down to Alabama, a Mississippi, a Georgia, Tennessee, and you see majority of the segregation still going on.
Absolutely.
That you have the white side and you have the Black side.
But no one's on a federal level or local level is stopping either person from moving to either side.
That's true.
So we're self-segregating is my point. Do we do it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does it happen? Absolutely. But on a federal law level, that's illegal. So that's why I said it's illegal though.
Yeah.
But you're right. It does. It is. Detroit is 89% Black. 89%. It's the blackest city in the country as far as percentage wise. All the cops, the Detroit police force is like 79% Black. So when they're rioting and protesting in Detroit, your cops are Black. So when you're saying Black Lives Matter, they're like, yeah, duh, we're Black. Of course our lives matter. But your lives don't matter because you're in a uniform. But I'm still Black. So when I look at things like that, I go, sometimes the ideology, the connection isn't made because I go, I'm not going to protest you. You look like me, and I'm saying your life matters, my life matters because you're Black. So even if you look at that level, the argument is kind of not really made there. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to understand that one.
Man, dude, some good stuff here. Some very good stuff, man. Is there something that you'd like to say that maybe I didn't ask before we head out of here?
No, I think you touched on all of the grounds. You got it.
I'll just say, man, thank you for letting us come on the podcast, and share. And I would just say that take individual responsibility for your actions, your household. Train, educate yourself. Spend some time reading some books. Spend some time learning, and spend some time around people of different cultures. Appreciate those cultures. There's some things that are going to be weird and strange and goofy about all of them to our perception of normal, but appreciate those, appreciate traditions, and everybody love everybody.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's good because, like you said, it just appreciating different cultures and understand that there's going to be difference, because I know the first time when I married Jamie and like her family, Melanie, Shalee, all of them, they can cook. They can cook like hardcore. But when you go like to a big gathering and they have casseroles, like I wasn't used to casseroles. I was used to collard greens, macaroni and cheese, ham. I was used to some. It wasn't going back for seconds. If you went back for seconds, you pigging out. Like you falling asleep after your, after your meal. So, there's definitely, different cultures, and understanding and just being thankful for what God created, So,
dude, I appreciate y'all being on here. I love the knowledge that you got to share. I think that definitely going to make an impact for sure. Love what you guys are doing. Pastor Rowe, always bringing that fire over there at church. And Andre, too. If you've never heard them speak, preach, go do it. They're awesome. You do have social media. Somebody wanted to follow you. You know what? Kind of.
Only Facebook. Andre Campbell, Andre Campbell, just like the soup. Good. It's just like that. So
there you
go. Yeah, probably Facebook. RENELL Miller. Easy enough.
There we go.
What is that? Renell?
He's giving a man.
Government.
Oh yeah, Ro. What is your full name?
Renell Doyer Miller.
Doyer, gotcha. And it's just Andre Campbell.
Andre Deshaun Campbell.
Yeah,
he makes fun of it all the time. Andre Deshaun Campbell.
That's right.
Well, and then you can also go. I do have No Holds on Facebook, and it's also on Instagram. Go subscribe on YouTube, like, share, man, share the heck out of it. I want this to go everywhere. I want people to hear what they have to say. Any of the podcasts, share it. If you like it, then like it. If you also want feedback, give me feedback. Give them feedback.
Yes,
I would really appreciate that. But until next time, man, we are out. Peace.